This is the U200 Lite smart lock from Aqara. It's a cheaper version of the U200 smart lock that I've previously tested here on the channel and which I was really excited about. This version contains fewer components and is therefore cheaper to buy. It still works with Apple HomeKit, but with one major exception that, at least for me, is a bit of a deal breaker. But it might still cover your needs, especially if you're not that deep into Apple Home. But let's start by seeing what's in the box. There's some paper, looks like legal stuff, and a small manual. We're not going to bother with those. Then there's a metal mounting plate. This is the battery, which is rechargeable. It has a USB-C port located right here, and then you can simply put it into the lock to use it. Then there are some screws and some different adhesive spacers. Here are some more spacers. There are different adapters that are specifically designed to fit the peg inside your lock. You can mount this device on top of an existing lock by simply removing part of the lock and then attaching this to the peg inside the lock. So, as you can see, there are a number of different adapters included, so hopefully one of them will fit the peg in your lock. And then there are these two small plastic NFC tags. They are made of hard plastic, have adhesive on the back, and are just a couple of millimeters thick. And the idea with these, as far as I understand it, and I'll of course test this, is that you can mount them outside your door and use them to trigger, for example, Apple HomeKey. So you can unlock the lock with your phone or your Apple Watch. Very smart. Down here, I'm guessing we have the lock itself. There's a little extra thing here. It looks like a little extra backplate, which was also in the full kit. Let's see what this one looks like. In the full kit, it was a wooden plate. Here it's a kind of a grayish one. And then I have the lock itself, which has a white plate, it seems. So let's just get it unpacked. Yes, it is indeed the white model I have here. And yes, it basically looks the same as the regular U200. And underneath here, there's this 3M adhesive pad. So if you don't want to put screws in your door, you can just stick the lock on with this. And I've actually done that with the lock I have installed, and it works perfectly fine. So that was everything that's in the box here. Compared to the full kit, this one is missing the keypad with the fingerprint reader. It's designed to be mounted on the outside of the door, but I have to be honest, the only thing I actually use it for is to lock the door when I leave, because it has a lock button on it, and my kids have a personal code each, so they can let themselves into the house by just typing it on the keypad. But if you don't need that, then you can easily get by with this solution. At least that's my guess. We'll have to see how it works in practice. In the full solution, or the full kit, there was also an adapter included so you could use regular batteries. And then there was a small bag that you could hang on the door so you could put a USB charger, like a power bank, into it so you don't have to take it off the lock to charge it. But well, that was basically just some extra equipment. It's not something that really affects the functionality. So let's try to get this connected. I'm not going to mount it on my door, I think. I'm just going to set it up like this so we can test how it works, but I will also show you how the installation on the door is done. Well, I thought I'd get away without an installation, but after adding the lock to the Aqara app by scanning the QR code inside it, it turned out that I couldn't complete the setup and, for example, update the firmware without first mounting it on a door because I wasn't allowed to proceed without running an automatic calibration. So I unmounted my existing U200 and then I put the U200 Lite on my front door instead. Unfortunately, the automatic calibration didn't work very well because the lock thought the door was unlocked when it was locked after the calibration. So I had to perform a manual calibration to get it to work. By the way, that's also my experience from my own U200 lock. That manual calibration works better, but it wasn't available until after I had tried the automatic one. It would have been a bit smarter if I could have just run the manual one right away, since I know that it works best. As I wrote on the screen just before, it unfortunately turns out that the U200 Lite doesn't support Apple HomeKey, which my existing U200 does. That's this super smart feature where you just hold your iPhone or your Apple Watch up to the lock to open or lock the door instantly. With the U200 Lite, the idea is that you instead use Aqara's app, which you then trigger via the included NFC tags. 2 are included because each tag can only trigger one function, either lock or unlock. That's a bit silly because you have to have two tags placed outside the door, and remember to hold your phone to the right one depending on what you want to do. At the same time, you get a notification when you hold the phone to the tag and you have to tap the notification to activate the lock. So it's not as smart as Apple HomeKey, where you just hold the phone to the lock and don't have to do anything else. But I have found a solution where, using Apple's Shortcuts app, you can open and lock directly via HomeKit without having to confirm anything and without having to use two NFC tags. I'll show you that in a moment, but first, let's see how you install the lock on your own door. On my door, I've removed the inner handle and attached one of the included adapters directly to the pin that turns the lock around inside the door. But if you don't want to take your lock apart, in many cases, you can avoid it. If you can remove just the handle on the inside of the door, you may be able to replace it with one of the adapters. But that's just one option. If you have a lock with a key on the inside, you can actually mount the U200 Lite over the key, so it just turns the existing key in the lock. Both of these require you to use the small spacer plates that are included to line up the mounting plate with the lock, as the lock sticks out a bit from the door. If you want a completely flat installation like I have, then the lock must be removed from the inside. You don't need to screw anything into the door, because the lock can be glued on with the spacer plates and this 3M adhesive pad. You just glue the adhesive pad onto the mounting plate, and then you make sure to line it up with the lock and ensure it's straight before you press it into place. And once it's in place, well, you can screw the U200 Lite on with 3 small screws. Once the lock is mounted and calibrated, it needs to be added to your smart home. The U200 Lite insisted on being connected to an Aqara Matter controller before I could select other third-party systems. I have an Aqara G5 surveillance camera that also works as a Matter controller, but I had problems connecting the U200 Lite, and when I finally got a connection, it wanted to add the lock to some Aqara Home in HomeKit, which I don't have. So instead, I tried adding it directly to HomeKit by scanning the Matter QR code, and that worked without any problems, and the lock was added to my own home in HomeKit, bypassing the Aqara app. I have a HomePod Mini that works as a thread border router, so that was the reason I could connect the lock to my network without using the Aqara camera. If you have a 3rd generation or newer Apple TV 4K with Ethernet and Wi-Fi, that can also be used, but it's important to be aware that you need another device that can act as a bridge between the U200 Lite and your network, which, by the way, is also the case with the large U200 package. As mentioned, the U200 Lite unfortunately does not support Apple HomeKey. So you cannot use your phone or your Apple Watch to open and lock the door as easily as I can on my U200 lock. For me, that's a bit of a deal breaker because it works incredibly well on the U200, and it is the main reason I chose to buy that particular lock. But luckily, I found a solution that works better than the one Aqara suggests you use. I want a solution where I can just hold my phone up to an NFC tag and then open or lock the door without having to do anything else. And via Apple's Shortcuts app, that is fortunately possible. You can program a shortcut that first checks to see whether the lock is currently locked or not, and then triggers the relevant action. Afterwards, you can create an automation in the Shortcuts app that is specifically triggered by one of the included Aqara NFC tags, making the process even more seamless and convenient. And you can set that to run without confirmation, so you just hold the phone to the tag to activate the lock. If you want to be absolutely certain that the tag is registered, you can also choose to receive a notification about it, but you do not have to press anything for it to work, which makes the process very convenient. I have now set this up on my phone, and as you can see, I am able to lock and unlock it just by holding the phone up to the tag, which I can then mount outside on my front door, making it easily accessible whenever I need it. The only limitation compared to the HomeKey solution is that HomeKey can also be set to work even if your phone is locked, which makes it even more convenient. You can't do that with the shortcut, and it only works on your phone, not on your Apple Watch. The U200 Lite also reacts a bit slower via the NFC tag than the U200 does with HomeKey, but it actually does that when I trigger it directly in HomeKit as well, so maybe it's just a bit slower than its big brother. The U200 Lite also works with a lot of other smart home systems. But since I use HomeKit, I've chosen to focus on that. According to Aqara, the recommended retail price is €130, but you can probably find it cheaper somewhere at this point. The large U200 package is about 70% more, so you'll likely be able to save quite a bit with the U200 Lite if you can live with slightly reduced functionality and speed, or if you're perhaps using another system that doesn't rely on HomeKey. Personally, I think I would still choose the large U200 package with the external keypad and fingerprint reader, because Apple HomeKey just works incredibly well. It unlocks extremely fast, and you have the added benefit of being able to create individual and even temporary access codes for guests or family, for example. But it's always great to have alternatives, and compared to other smart locks, the U200 Lite isn't bad at all. Its big brother is just a little better. If you want to see my review of the big brother, it's right there, and if you'd like to support me directly, the best way is to buy me some virtual coffee. Of course, you're also very welcome to subscribe to my channel. It's completely free. See you soon.